My why is to help women walk in soul level confidence to achieve the financial and personal dreams that they have for themselves. And the vehicle that we do that is through our Pitch Your Way to Cash membership, through our Speak Your Way to Cash mastermind, through our live events. But it's really about unlocking a level of confidence that says, okay, I am worth the dreams that I'm dreaming. They're not above me. You know what I mean? It's giving them a view of their faith. Dr. Benjamin Hardy has a book called Be Your Future Self Now. And at the tail end of that book, he talks about how based on your view of God, that determines how you live on earth. So I want people to understand, you have a God that's okay with you being your full self. That's okay with you being unique. That's okay with you being, you living out your dreams. No good thing is he going to withhold from you. If something is being withheld, what is it trying to teach you? It's not to tease you. My favorite affirmation is God doesn't tease me, right?
You are here. Welcome to the Purpose Finder podcast. This is the show where we uncover why you are truly here and, more importantly, how to make it your reality. My father, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, said the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but life without purpose. And research further shows that people with a strong sense of purpose are 2.4 times more likely to feel fulfilled. Each week, I sit down with extraordinary guests, entrepreneurs, artists, thought leaders who are boldly living their why. We dive deep into their journeys, the struggles they've overcome, their breakthroughs, and the lessons that can help you do the same. I am your beautiful host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and we're about to explore the mindsets, tools, and strategies to help you live a life with purpose, passion, and legacy. Are you ready? Let's go and dive into the episode. And we are back to another great episode of Purpose Finder Podcast, where our mission is simple: to inspire you to find and uncover your purpose in life and to live a life overflowing with what? 3 things: meaning, fulfillment, and significance. Deep down, we all crave belonging. Nobody wants to feel unfulfilled. And we are all searching, asking that one big question: why in the world am I here? Well, I hope you allow your search to end right here. I'm your host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and today I get the incredible honor and privilege to sit down with someone who doesn't only talk about it, she doesn't only dream about her purpose, she doesn't only even walk in it, but she is walking and talking about it boldly. And we get to explore her story, her journey, and some of the lessons that she's learned along the way. Welcome, Ashley Kirkwood. Ashley, it is such a pleasure to have you. Such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for saying yes to me, to my listeners. I've been following you for some time, and you're doing great, amazing things in the world, representing women, representing Black women, representing just family, representing wife, representing mother, just representing the whole 9 yards, and doing it so gracefully. So I kind of want to talk about how you do that and how you've been able to literally make it to the top of your game, if you will. But before we get there, nobody wants to hear me read a bio, so we're not going to do that. But you do want to hear Ashley's heart. So Ashley, tell us where you're from, what you do, kind of who you are in the world.
Yeah, so that's so interesting. Who am I? I would say, well, professionally, which is typically what I lead with in these settings, I run a company called Speak Your Way to Cash. I left my $300,000 partner track law firm job to start my own business. And my first business was a law firm. And people were coming to my law firm asking me to negotiate their contracts, draft their contracts. But what was happening was these were Black speakers, experts, authors, and they were being severely underpaid by corporations, so much so that my spirit wouldn't even let me draft the agreement. I was like, let me call this person and renegotiate this contract for you real quick, and then I'll draft an appropriate contract with an appropriate number. And my husband saw me do this time and time again and get people tens of thousands of additional dollars on their contract, sometimes 6 figures. And he was just like, that's not legal services. The reason why they can't find a lawyer like you is because lawyers don't do this. You do this, but you need to charge separately for that. And so that's how Speak Your Way to Cash was born. And our first, event was in 2019 with 10 people. It probably made $800. And since then, we've been able to have events with hundreds of people in the building that have made over $2 million. And I just never would have thought that's how it would have transitioned. But we've been in business since 2019. And then in 2024, we ranked 370 out of 5,000 companies in America on the Inc. 5000 list. So the top 8% of the list of the fastest growing companies in America. And so it's been a journey. It wasn't just as easy as what I just said, but that's who I am professionally. And then personally, I'm a child of God. I love God. I love life. I love my husband. I love my daughter. I love my family. I love my friends. I am so focused right now on being present for the people and the experiences that God has blessed me to be surrounded by.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You said so much. And all I heard was, like, we heard the mountaintop. Like, you talked about where you are right now, how you get there, going from 800 in 2019 to 2 million in your events, going from 10 people to now hundreds of people at your events. Like, that's so beautiful. But then for you to also humbly say, that may have sound easy, but it wasn't always so easy. And then I'm going to assume that your priority, even before all of that, is your family. God being number one, husband, wife, mother, your daughter. Like, that's so beautiful. And it's beautiful because sometimes a lot of people can't find that balance. And backstage, you and I were talking about how balance was so important for you, or balance is so important for you. So when were you always that way as far as being aligned and having balance, or was that something you learned along the way?
I definitely wasn't. I also think that I don't know if perfect balance is ever achievable. What I do believe is that life has seasons. And we need to be discerning enough to determine what season we're in. There were some seasons where business was primary. You know what I mean? And I do mean primary, right? Like we always try to I always am aiming to keep God first. But if I am 100% honest, there were probably some seasons where work came before my relationship with God in some ways. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just being real. And what that looked like for me was I was working 20-hour days. Like I didn't have time for anything else. And at this time, I was married. So imagine how that can impact things. I think that one thing my husband is great at is he's really good at telling me the truth, even if the truth hurts. And there have been times where he's had to sit me down and be like, babe, I need more time with you, or I'm feeling like I'm being left behind here, or we're not aligned here. And that has then allowed me to shift my priorities and make sure that I don't lose what I prayed for. I love being married. My husband and I got married at 22 and 23 after like 6 months of dating. We didn't do a wedding or anything. We literally got married for love. We lived in a 500 square foot apartment on the southwest side of Chicago, Brighton Park, 38th in California. And our rent was $500 a month. We didn't even have money for furniture. We went on Craigslist to the free furniture section and furnished our apartment. And though that sounds gross, which now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, that's so gross. That was before COVID though, y'all. But like, it sounds bad. But when I think about it, it's just like, we had so much fun. At that time, we were going to church 4 days a week. So my husband's apostolic, and both of our dads are pastors. We were singing at the church, doing church ministry, doing street ministry, going up and down West Side, evangelizing to people, doing programs on the weekend. And I worked a full-time job and he worked a full-time job. And at night I studied to be a lawyer. So I was taking LSAT classes. But during that period, we didn't have money, but we had so much time. And during that time, we were always together. From the day that we met on our first date to like, I think 3 or 4 years into our marriage, we were together every single day. We were literally never apart. And so thankfully, because of that foundation, when seasons came where we couldn't be together all the time, we had enough of a foundation to be like, this is off. Like, this is off. Like, I miss my man. He misses me. Like, we need to realign. But yeah, I've just been good at discerning seasons. There are some seasons where you have to grind. And I do feel like a lot of women in particular are afraid of grind season. Like, oh my God, but during that season, what if I lose my marriage? What if I lose my kids? What if I lose my, what am I, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, take care of the main thing. But if you are conversant and conscious enough of the season you're in, have conversations with the people in your life and say, hey, this next year, I got to get it. That's going to look like long hours. That's going to look like this. And because you matter a lot to me, this is what I'm going to do to carve out time for you. Every Saturday at this time, we're going to be together. You know what I mean? My daughter and I, we do mommy daughter days. Like, that's sacred to us. So life has seasons, and I have not always gotten it right. But right now, through trials and tribulations, I figured out a really good rhythm of how to do life and business and not sacrifice my goals for my family, because I don't want to make them a scapegoat for my dreams not coming to fruition, and kind of like blaming them, like, well, I'm a mom or I'm a wife. It's like, nah, like, and truthfully, on my first day with my husband, I told him who he was marrying. I didn't have no signs of this, but I told him all of this would happen.
So you mentioned your husband sitting you down
Mm-hmm.
and telling you, look, babe, I need more time. You need to calm down. You're doing too much. How did that make you feel, or how did you receive that? Or, because I know in a world today where, you have more women in the work world now. You have more women in leadership positions in companies and so forth. And so, either they're unmarried, or if they are married, the husband just kind of has to sit on the sideline and just kind of watch. But your husband was bold enough, and I appreciate the fact that he was bold enough to sit you down and say, look, this is what I need, and then this is what we need. How did you receive that?
I think, for me, and it wasn't like one instance. I think it was like things kind of built up and we ended up having a conversation about it. But for me, my husband didn't sit me down and say, stop. What he really meant was, you need to bring me in. So I had to slow down enough to explain to him what I was doing so that it wouldn't just be my business or my career or my, it could become ours. But if he didn't know enough about what was going on, even when I would get a win, it'd be like, oh, I was in the American Lawyer. He's like, what's that? You know what I mean? Like, I had to explain to him what was going on so that it could be ours. So it went from me only talking to my girlfriends that were also lawyers about my career and what that looked like, to me having conversations with him so that he understood, hey, I'm not just going to work at a law firm. I am working at the #1 law firm in the world for litigation. I'm not just like, this ain't no job at a small place. Like, I'm working at the top of my field. I'm the only Black woman in litigation. I have to try cases. The way I get to the top is this. At one point, I wanted to be on the Supreme Court. So I had to explain to him, like, these are the firms they appoint federal justices from. This is what you have to do to get there. This is the ranking of my law firm. We're at the top. This is what that looks like. Only 14% of all lawyers, no matter of color, get to work where I work. This is a big deal. Like, it's not a little thing. And once he understood that, now he knows all of my competitor firms. Now we can talk conversantly about what's going on. Now he knows what discovery is. So when I say, hey, I'm in discovery this week, he knows, oh, it's going to be a long week. Let me make sure she has, what she needs. I'm probably not going to see her as much this week. Cool. Let's plan a date night for when you're gone. And when I would go on these federal trials, he would fly out on the weekends and take a red eye to see me every week. And for federal trials, you may leave on a Monday and think you're going to be gone 3 days. I was gone for 2-3 weeks sometimes. So you don't really know. And I think that many times when you have a fast growing career and when you're a really ambitious woman, you like to talk to people who already get it. And what he said to me that really changed my perspective was, he was like, if your girlfriend didn't understand something, you would sit with her on the phone for hours and break it down and go through every little thing and send her text message pictures and use analogies. And he's like, I want you to show me more grace than that. And I was like, bet, I got it. I will do that. And my husband's brilliant. So it was easy for him to like pick up on it. But I just wasn't even doing the minuscule task of like conversing with him about what I was doing, breaking down what it meant to me, what it meant to the world, what it meant. You know what I mean? And I think if you don't do that, they can't be in it. Now it's just your thing. And it looks like your thing is pulling you away from the marriage. So even with business, before he joined the company full time, which now he's our sales director, he would, help with setting up the events. He would help with running the payroll. He would help. And when he couldn't help, I'd be like, all right, well, babe, this is what's going on in business. Sales are down. The other thing that I used to do, and I think this is really going to help my entrepreneurial sisters. When business was going bad, instead of explaining to him why I was upset and going to him humbly and being like, hey, sales were down today. I'm a little bit down. Maybe that's why I'm a little short with you. I would just act out like a child. So he asked me, hey, what do you want to eat? I'd be like, what do you mean food? I don't have time for food. I'm trying to make these sales. And it's like, no. So now, we'll be married 13 years this year. So now I go to him and I'm like, I'm next week, I'm going to speak at Funnel Hacking Live, which is one of the largest marketing conferences in the world. It's in front of 5,000 marketers from all over the world. And I'm speaking on stage. It's a Russell Brunson event. Russell is a unicorn tech founder who made $1 billion with no venture capital funding. So I'm going to speak there. I didn't think it was next week. Sharisa, I thought I had time. I realized yesterday it's next week. And instead of being short with him or acting out, I looked at my husband and I said, babe, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous. I just got off sabbatical. I thought I had more time. It was an act of faith to take a sabbatical in January, knowing I had one of the biggest speaking events of my career to date coming up right when I got back. And what my husband told me before we left on sabbatical in January was like, hey, babe, God is going to bless this. You're going to lose nothing for this because you are literally sowing into rest in a way that honors him. You're not going to lose for this. Because I had turned down several speaking engagements, several interviews people wanted me to do, several things. And I'm just like, it's the start of the year. People are starting their year strong. I'm starting my year soft. I was feeling all kind of ways about it. And he was like, no, you said that this matters and we're going to do it. Because last year I did it and it changed my life, taking 4 to 6 weeks off at a time. It changed the way that my year went because it started so well. But he's just a great person. He's a great man. But I've had to be soft enough with him to say when I'm scared or when I'm hurt or when I'm frustrated or when I'm worried if it's going to work out, and just go to him with those raw emotions instead of going to him with the the attitude that can come from being under the pressures that I'm under.
And there's so much you said that I want to get to, and I don't have enough. I want to keep looking at you because I don't want to miss anything, but I want to write. So you talked about, let's go from backwards. Let's go from now to what you talked about 10 minutes ago. But you talk about being soft and having to be soft for him, but also having to be strong. So how did you find the rhythm and the balance to still be this Black woman who, in order to get to the top, you said you have to be a certain way? So in your former law firm, you had to be a certain way in order to get to the top and then stay there. How do you then now be that at work? But then at home, you have to be soft, and not in a weak way, just soft in a I'm alpha out there, but when I'm home, I'm not so much.
You know what? That's not something that I've mastered, if I'm being honest. I think that what I've realized through prayer is that a lot of times, even when you said in my law firm, I had to be a certain way to be at the top, I believed I had to be a certain way to get and to stay at the top. But in truth be told, I never tried being softer at work and saw what that could have gotten me. So I don't know. I've always been an assertive girl. I'm a daddy's girl. My dad's an entrepreneur. He grew a large business. My dad is also a pastor, and similar to you, he's also he's a charismatic, amazing man. And so I just was drawn to my dad. And I think that a part of that is great in that I've always had an amazing father. And my mom, I get a lot of my wisdom from her. But a part of me relates so much to my dad's ambition and the way he built and the way he took himself, literally pulled himself up by the bootstraps and all of that. And so I think because of that, I think I acted harder than I had to be. And then in school, I was bullied in high school. And I didn't think it was something that impacted me a lot. But again, the Holy Spirit will reveal to you things that are impairing you that you didn't think impaired you. In one season, it was okay for me to be hard all the time. It didn't really affect me. I didn't lose much for it. But in this season, in order to maintain and scale the business that we want to scale, have the marriage that I want to have, be the mom that I want to be, I've got to be softer, which means I've had to analyze, well, why am I so hard all the time? Why am I so intense all the time? Why don't I relax more? And the truth of the matter is it comes from fear. It comes from fear. And the fear is, hey, if I don't protect myself, no one else will protect me. So even in a marriage with a man who loves me, I've been hard towards him because I was scared that he couldn't hold my heart, even though he's shown me no signs of that. But when you're bullied and all of that stuff goes on, sometimes you realize, okay, they're bullying me. I'm not, like, I remember being a kid being like, you're not, I remember telling my bullies, you're not going to bully me. I'm not going to be bullied by you. You know what I mean? And so it makes you a little bit harder over time. You start trusting people less. You start putting up walls where there should be doors. And I didn't realize that I was doing some of that in my marriage because, one, fear, but then two, a lack of faith. Because faith in God says that even if I don't feel safe, I am safe because God always makes me safe. Right? And that means that I can be soft with people and I can be kind to people. And even if those people take my kindness, break it over their knee and throw it in the trash can, that is their business, not mine. And I have not always exhibited enough kindness in my life because I've been scared. And I started reading a scripture, and I can't think of it, but it was basically talking about how love covers fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, love covers fear. Oh, so I need to accept the love of my husband, and it will help me to get over these fears. I need to accept that God loves me. If I believe that God loved me, I wouldn't live in consistent and perpetual fear. And I've never thought I dealt with fear because I'm like, I will just try things and put myself out there. But it is scary behavior to preemptively get rid of relationships or put walls up in relationships when they have not shown you that they are not trustworthy.
But I like
when you can't love first, that's fear.
But you're able to tie it back to something. And I'm very glad that you went all the way back to your school age period where the fear, because we're listening for the first 20 minutes of our conversation. We're listening to this beautiful Black woman who is at the top of her game back then and even now. And I would have never imagined, we, the listeners, would have never imagined that you struggle, probably even now, with fear, that you struggle with any limitations. But I love it because even when I talk about purpose a lot, especially when I talk about purpose and leadership, people look at us who are doing our thing, who are walking in our purpose, and they automatically think that we have it all together all the time. And it's so far from the truth. However, we're very good at masking. We're very good at covering up. But I'm happy to hear that the humanizing part of you that said, you know, all of that was because of fear. And then you go back to it stems from, I was bullied when I was a child. So when you think about other things that happen in your younger years that may have lend a hand to who you are now, who you are becoming, the things that you've had to get over on this journey to being at the top, staying at the top, and still being kind to people. What are some of those adversities and challenges that you can say, yeah, because of that, I always have to do some inner work?
Yeah, I think that's the main thing because my childhood overwhelmingly was very happy and positive. And like I said, even the bullies, I remember standing up to them. Like, I remember being the kid that was like, you know, I probably wasn't very nice to them, but I was very much, because my husband and I went to high school together. We got married in college, really, but we went to high school together. And he used to always say, I would come on our school bus. We took the same bus with my roller book bag and boiled eggs and turkey bacon, and people hated how it smelled. And he said when they would bully me, I would like snap back at them like, well, that's because you're probably just rude because you don't have both your parents in the house. Like, just something so mean. And I'm just like, oh my God. And he was like, yeah, that's why they didn't like you, because you were very rude. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but they were bullied. That was my response, y'all. So it wasn't like I just came with it. And then it didn't help that I was totally a Bible thumper. So I would totally tell people like, you are going to hell, buddy. So just so you know, the Bible says you're going to hell. Okay. So you can talk about me, but it's hot down there. Like, I was just a mess, but I was also a very confident child. And I think that came from, I did baby pageants when I was really young. I think 4 was when I won my first title. And my parents taught me that, hey, people may talk about you, that may happen, but guess what? you stay focused. My mom taught me, hey, don't be out here dating all these little boys. Like, if you're going to date when I was older and in college, she's like, that's fine. You can date, but do not have these 5, 10, 15-year relationships. If a man wants to be with you, he will marry you. Do not waste your youth playing games with men who are not worthy of you. So I think most of my youth, when I look back on it, I remember the lessons that my parents taught me, even down to my mom teaching me about jealousy. I remember there was this boy, and I don't even think we were dating, but he had called me in high school and he was like, hey, if you don't be my girlfriend, I'm going to kill myself. And I told my mom, and she was like, do not let anyone emotionally manipulate you. She was like, first of all, you're not responsible for what he does as what decisions he makes. You need to be nice to him, but you need to tell him respectfully. I'm not going to commit myself to you under any circumstance. And I just remember at the time, I don't think I really knew what that meant, but looking back, what she was teaching me was don't be a people pleaser. And I think so many dreams die in the grave of people pleasers. Like, people are just people pleasers. And it all goes back to this concept of like fearing man, which, the Bible talks a lot about that as well. Is like, be careful of the fear of man. And I was praying, I don't know, sometime last year, I believe, and the Lord led me to a scripture all about the dangers of the fear of man. And the scripture was talking about how the fear of man is like a snare. And when I looked up what a snare was, it's this entrapment mechanism that is aimed to either capture or kill prey. And what it said is that the more powerful the prey is, the more deadly the snare is. And what that taught me was that if we as people have a powerful vision or a powerful purpose over our lives, then what will happen is the enemy will be even more insidious with the traps that he lays for us, like the fear of man. So even with me being an influencer and you having a platform, and also, your father being a giant in ministry and all of that, people will put us on pedestals and idolize us and all of that, such that if we ask them to do something that was against their value system, sometimes they'll do it because they have more fear of us or losing an opportunity than they do of God and holding to their values. And what the Lord was telling me is that this is something I want you to figure out. I want you to get rid of any idolatry. I want you to make sure you don't fear man. I want you to not be a respecter of person, because I'm going to send you to places. And in those places, I need you to tell people of influence and of great wealth what's right. I need you to advise them on what to do in business and maybe even spiritually. And it has to be from a place of you not being scared of what they will do to you. You have to fear me more. And I think that, with growing these businesses, the best thing you're going to have to grow above, there's technical things you need to do to make money in business, which I think a lot of people just skip over. Like, you got to learn sales, you got to learn marketing, you got to learn operations. But above that, if you really want to grow it to the next level, your mindset is everything.
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 Yes.
If your mind isn't right, because here's the thing, you can make a whole lot of money and be depressed every day.
People do it all the time.
And for me, I do not want to be rich in money and poor in spirit. I don't want to be rich in money and poor in joy, poor in peace. No, I want it all. And if the Bible says, through Christ we could do all things, like, that means we can endure all things. But there are some things that we can't do in our own strength, but we could definitely do them in the strength of the Lord. I want all of that. You know what I mean? And I don't want to risk my family or my health or my peace, which I have risked my health for business. I don't want to do that perpetually, consistently, and again. So now I'm in the process of like, okay, Lord, where does my character need to be so that the visions you have shown me for my life can come to pass and it will not kill or harm me?
And this is why, as a social worker, as a mental health worker, as a advocate and influencer, when it comes, I'm just motivated by purpose. I'm all those things. And when I hear, which is why suicide is something I talk about a lot, because when people start committing, you would have, usually it's not the poor of the poorest. Sometimes it's the rich of the richest who are ending their lives because, as far as they're concerned, I'm making all this money, but I'm still depressed. I'm making all this money, but I'm still not happy. I'm making all this money, but my wife is cheating on me. I'm making all this money, but my home is not a place where I call home. I'm making all this money and I'm at the top, but I still have anxiety. I'm making all this money, but I still don't know what my purpose is in life. I'm making all this money, but really and truly, this is not really what I want to be doing. And so they're rich, rich, rich. Not even wealthy. They're just rich, 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 and completely empty. And
It's not hard, because what people don't realize is, when let's say you got $100, you know where all them $100 is, because it's not that much, right? Like, you know where that is. When you're making millions of dollars, you don't know where every dollar is. Possibly you are paying out other people. You have people working on your behalf. You're trusting that people are doing their job, which means you're constantly giving up control. That is a very overwhelming feeling, especially for entrepreneurs who get into it to have more control. Most of us are like, I left my job. I didn't like someone else, my income and my peace being in the hands of someone else. So now I'm an entrepreneur, and now I have more control over my time, more control over my money, more control over this. But the bigger you get, the less control you have, which means the more faith you need to have. So if you're not simultaneously developing your business skills.
Ma'am, wait a minute. The bigger you play, pretty much, the less control you have.
100%.
Therefore, the more faith you need to possess.
Yeah. So you got to develop both at the same time. If you spent all the time developing business skills, none of the time developing your faith, well, now your business can sustain millions upon millions of dollars, but your faith can't. So you're anxious all the time because you're worried all the time about people doing you wrong, about you losing it all, about people knowing you lose it all, about da da da. So it's just like you have to do both. Like, you got to develop both so that they don't outpace one another.
But I think people believe that the higher I get, the stronger I get in my business, the more money I have, the less faith I need. And really and truly, it's the other way around.
And that is why that scripture says it's hard for a rich man to get into heaven.
Absolutely.
Not because it's impossible, but because when you have a large, and that was literally my devotional this morning, when you have a large amount of money, your faith can be more in your money than it is in God. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is having a lot of money and thinking that you're safe is really an illusion, because you're not safe because you have a lot of money. You're always safest in the will of God, depending on your belief system. From my belief system, I am always safest if I am in the will of God. I am not necessarily safest just because I got a whole lot of money. In fact, the year that we made the most money our business has ever made, our profit margins were so small because I didn't have enough peace to properly allocate the profits. Last year, had peace all year. Our profit margins were so large that we made more money last year than we made the year we hit our highest revenue number ever, because our profit margins were bigger. And people are like, well, dang, how your profits bigger? Oh, well, my profits were bigger because I was not making financial decisions to please people. When you make peaceful decisions are profitable decisions. But anxious decisions are not profitable decisions.
And this is why personal development, business development, and spiritual development all go hand in hand. So people will just want to focus on their business development and want to make more money. This was me a couple of years ago. I want to make more money. I want my business to grow. It's small, so I want to see it grow over the next 5 years. And then my coach looks at me and she's like, yeah, but you got this crap going on over here. You need to deal with this grief of your parents that you haven't dealt with. You need to go home to the house where you were born that you haven't gone to 7 years later. And it's because your business will only be as strong as your personal development.
100%.
And your business and your personal development would damn sure only be as strong as your spiritual development.
100%.
And so now I focus on both. Therefore, in my business, I make sure my clients are focusing on both, because we can get you up here in the business if you want to. That's easy. But if mentally you're still limited in the way you think, if you don't have no value to begin with, or your values are weak, then your business isn't going to be any further than that. Let's not talk about where you are spiritually. And so you can't have one without the other. So when I finally got to a place where I was willing to deal with the unresolved grief that I didn't want to deal with because the pain was too hard, and finally went home to the house that I grew up in 7 years later after my parents passed, oh my goodness, my entire life. I would have never imagined that when they talk about closure, how important that is, and how literal it also is, to closing one, to therefore being able to start and open up a whole new chapter, better yet, a whole new book, or just be the author of a new book. And it changed my life completely. But I would have never imagined that I didn't, like, do I have to touch this? Like, I came to you for business. I don't talk about grief. And she's like, hey, I need you to do this and this if you want to do this. And of
Well,
course,
that sounds like a good, like a well-rounded coach too, to even identify what you needed. And sometimes it does go beyond business. Like there are some clients where it's like, baby, you got to get your skills up, right? Like when we're coaching clients, I'm like, you don't know enough about what you say you want to get it or to maintain it if you got it. But then there are other times where it's like, no, it's your confidence. Like, you know how to make money. You don't need me to make and I can always tell confidence is low when they want me to make decisions for them. At the point where they're like, hey, Ashley, what should I do? Give me an answer versus give me a framework to make the decision. It's like, okay, there's a confidence issue there. Because the goal is not for me to make the decisions in your business. I'm not the CEO of your business. The goal is for me to give you the tools to make the best decisions for your business based on your vision. Because coaches are not supposed to give you vision. You're supposed to have vision. We're supposed to help that vision come to life faster with strategy. But you got to have vision. That's why coaching doesn't work for some people, because they don't have any vision. They're just trying to be like the coach. That's not vision.
Even
That's
if you make
copy.
a decision that was poor, I prefer that. And say, okay, I made it.
Because then you learn. I mean, there's no shame in that. Everyone's made some bad decisions or some things that they wish they could go back and maybe do a little bit differently. But you learn, and you have to learn. Like the work part of faith is typically neglected. The studying part, get good in the dark. There's a period in business where you're going to have to, like for us, before the first 6 figures, we were just like, I was consuming everything. I didn't read my first fiction book until this past sabbatical. Like, since I started my business, I have been reading business books, listening to business podcasts, listening to How I Built This, Side Hustle Pro. I re-listened to my own podcast, the Speak It Ready Cash podcast. Like, I literally am always learning and then and growing in that regard. But then sometimes it's a spiritual thing. So you just have to be discerning enough to know. And I think that's where the Holy Spirit really comes in. It's like leads you and guides you in all truth, not like truth about who you are and where you're at, so that you can make the best decisions.
I'm here in Mexico City at the Pave the Path Retreat 2024.
This first day has been amazing.
We tend to look for answers on the outside of ourselves, but a lot of our solutions to our problems are on the inside of us.
If I had to wrap this up in one word, I would use the word transformative.
One thing I learned day one is, I guess, be open to the applause when you have people that are on your side cheering you on.
Transformation is a process, so I don't expect us to get to a place where we're completely transformed. You should never be transformed. There should always be a transforming continually happening.
My relationship to love is that I believe love is something you have to conquer. So I always go for challenging people versus love is something that you find, or love is something that finds you, where then I would date the people who actually want to be with me and not the ones who are avoiding.
If you want to return home unrecognizable, make sure you are with us next year. You don't want to miss such a beautiful experience.
I've already been thinking of people that I want to run home and tell, and I'm excited to come back next year.
Position yourself to be poured into so that you can be served from your overflow, but make sure that who and what is pouring into you is pouring in life. It's pouring in empowerment. It's pouring in good, positive vibes, because you don't want to be filling and pouring and overflowing on serving the people you serve with a bunch of oil.
Y'all better come on this retreat.
You said something earlier on in our conversation, and I want to bring it back to the forefront because it touched me immediately. And I know it's going to touch someone else who was in business and things don't go as you would have planned and projected them to. So you said in 2019, you had your first event and you only had 10 people.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I know what it is to have an event and you only have 7 people. You may have wanted 25, but you only had 7. You had an event and you had 15 people, but you have 15 people because you gave it away for free because you need to get butts in the seats. You have your first event is only 2 people only. And I'm so grateful for my ability to get counsel and guidance from the Holy Spirit first, and then to now say, okay, I need to show me coaches who are ahead of me to kind of help me, because sometimes you just need to do the work. You just need to do it. You need to get into action, no matter how small, and then assess and then make the adjustments and then get into action again. And there could have been many times when a lot of having my first event, my first retreat, my first this, my first that could have broken me, because it was only 10 people. It was only 2 people. It was nobody. It was 5 people. And I could have canceled. I could have said, you know what, I'm not going to do this next year. But I'm so grateful for the father I had, first of all, who told me, Sharissa, there's nothing name can't. There's nothing you can't do, especially when God is on your side. You just need to go after it. If it doesn't work, keep trying again. Like, that was my dad instilling such things into me. And so I said, no, we're not going to cancel. If I only have 2 people at this event, I'm going to run this event like I have 1,000 people in the room. And that's what I do every year. But I know of people who get disappointed. They have the rejection, they get denied, and for them that's it. They're not doing it anymore. Their hearts are broken, so they can't do it. But I look at it as a learning experience. I look at it as there's 2 more testimonies I have now that I didn't have before. I look at it as skills that I'm kind of learning. And I love that you said, because your events today are sold out. I follow you enough to know. But to know, Ashley, that your journey was just a few years ago where you had an event with 10 people and you said, we're going to keep doing this until we get sold out events. And here you are. All that to say, how did you do it? How do you do it? What is the mindset that needs to be in place? I want you to speak to those who are listening. What is the mindset that you have that said, no matter what in 2019, in 2025, we're going to be at 2 million, even though we started at 10?
Well, first off, I didn't know that we would be here now. So I didn't do it for that reason. I think that oftentimes when I work with clients and they're looking to get sales training, they're looking to grow their businesses, they come to me and they say, hey, Ashley, I have a mission. I feel like God is placing it on my heart to do this. I have been doing it in corporate and I want to do it on my own. And I'm like, okay, great. God told you to do it. Good. Peace. Let's figure out how to sell it. But then when it gets hard, they're like, they want to quit. But I'm like, you said you weren't doing it for you. If you are really doing this for the people, if you are really doing this because God told you to do it, if you are really doing it because you want to help people, then why would you quit just because you feel that it's hard? Like, it's not about you to begin with. Number one, I was so excited that it was 10 people because it was my first event. I didn't have a goal of having hundreds of people there. And in fact, if hundreds of people would have shown up in that room, we wouldn't have had space for them. So that was perfect. Also, if you would have seen what I was wearing at that first event, like I literally,
and you Miss Fashionista now, boo. So tell me.
I may even have a picture of this first event because it's in my slide deck for Funnel Hacking Live. But like, if you would have, like, I wasn't ready to be in front of hundreds of people. And so if you think about it, sometimes you're wanting these things and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? This was my first event. That was me at this first event. I wasn't ready for no stadium. I wasn't ready for thousands of people. I wasn't ready for any of that. In fact, we had a guest speaker that showed up. Her name's Jay. She's over here in the orange. She showed up to my event and looked so fabulous. I was like, well, Jesus, is it my event or her event? And that was the lesson that I needed, because after that, I was like, baby, I'm dressing better for these events. I'm going to take myself more seriously. This is a real thing. I need to show up and show out. I was just thinking it was going to be a little workshop. And so I wasn't prepared for hundreds of people. And if we're honest, sometimes it starts small so we can get good in the dark. It starts small so that we can build confidence there. It starts small so that we can show, hey, I really want this. I don't just want this for the show of it all. I want this because I'm helping people. And of those 10 people, several of them stayed in our community for years to come. One of the women in this program joined my $30 a month coaching program. It does not exist anymore, y'all. I would never. But back then, we had a $30 a month coaching program That same woman stayed with us, built her business. Our firm filed her trademark. She joined our $35,000 mastermind program, was with us until literally the day she unfortunately left this earth. And her daughter was able to look at me after we found out of her passing. We have an award named after her. And her daughter said, my mom got to live her dreams. Thank you. Her husband came to me and said, my wife's confidence is through the roof. If I would have stopped after that first event, how would that have impacted this woman's life? And that's one woman. We've done over 8,000 transactions across America. Thousands of people have read our books, hundreds of people through our programs. We've generated the money, but skip that. We've helped so many people change their lives. I can't tell you how many husbands have come up to me and thanked me for the confidence their wife now walks in day after day after day. So who cares if it was 10 people? I was excited that it was 10 people.
So your growth was because of the why.
Yeah, like I was just like, I'm about to keep helping these people.
It wasn't for the money, it was for the people. It wasn't for the fame, it was for the people. So it was
for the people.
Why. So what is your why? Ashley, do you like, if you had to say my purpose on this earth, my calling on this earth is like, what is your why that makes you do your what and your how?
My why is to help women walk in soul level confidence to achieve the financial and personal dreams that they have for themselves.
Period.
Like, and the vehicle that we do that is through our Pitch Your Way to Cash membership, through our Speak Your Way to Cash mastermind, through our live events. But it's really about unlocking a level of confidence that says, okay, I am worth the dreams that I'm dreaming. They're not above me. You know what I mean? It's giving them a view of their faith. Dr. Benjamin Hardy has a book called Be Your Future Self Now. And at the tail end of that book, he talks about how based on your view of God, that determines how you live on earth. So I want people to understand, like, you have a God that's okay with you being your full self. That's okay with you being unique. That's okay with you being, you living out your dreams. No good thing is he going to withhold from you. If something is being withheld, what is it trying to teach you? It's not to tease you. My favorite affirmation is God doesn't tease me, right? And so we teach sales because I believe sales moves everything around you. Like, if you learn how to sell the services that are placed on your heart, you won't get burnt out as easily. If you learn how to sell, you can have proper boundaries. You can hire, you can pay people to help you out. You can take month-long sabbaticals in Bali.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we do sabbaticals. And we had the nanny we met last year on sabbatical in Bali flew with us this year to Bali and Singapore, and she watched our daughter so that we can have time alone.
And gentlemen, let me tell you about boundaries. And I love that we talk about boundaries, because in personal development, that's one of the big things that any great leader and person who is in business, just at the top of their game, can do is set boundaries for yourself and with others. And I remember sending an invite for this very podcast to Ashley, and very humbly, very kindly, very gently, Ashley said, and I only had space available in a certain month to record. And she said to me, she said, I am taking a month off in January. However, if you are available after that, pretty much holler back at me. And so I didn't have anything outside of this month available to do any interviews with any guests. And because I am so passionate about personal development, about expressing our needs, wants, and desires, passionate about setting boundaries so that we can live peace and joy, I appreciated that she said that and didn't say, okay, Sharissa's maybe kind of special. Let me just do this one thing in January for her. No, she said, I'm on a sabbatical. However, I would love to do it if you can do it a different time. And I appreciate that you didn't just say no. You didn't reject. You didn't decline. You didn't deny. You just said, I can't do it right now. Can you make the accommodation? Let me tell you guys something. The speed with which I ran to my calendar and opened up days that were not supposed to be open for someone who knows their worth, they know their value, they set their boundaries, and they're like, this is what it is. You eat a mildew or barbecue, like a friend of mine used to say. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing that you're able, or that you're even at a position, first of all, to say, we're going to take a whole month break. And you mentioned earlier about this sabbatical being, maybe I'm starting the year off soft while everybody is starting it off strong. Really and truly, because you took this sabbatical to rest and take care of what was priority for you at the time, actually, you're probably starting off a lot more stronger than some of us who didn't take a sabbatical. And so I hope that's an encouragement to many of you who don't want to rest, first of all, who don't want to express yourselves and be true to what it is that you truly want. If you don't want to do something and you want to take a week off, you want to take 2 weeks off, you want to take a month off to be with yourselves, be with your family, to rest, so that the next 11 months of the year, you're really and truly at the top of your game, please do it. Do it with ease. And Ashley, of course, you worked your way up to this.
Oh,
This
yeah,
isn't
for
something you
sure.
had been doing. But still, the fact that you're here and then you're able to express that, and then just let me be the one that decide what you're going to do with it. Like,
And it wasn't just you. I'll say this to your credit. Like, I had a offer to do a Forbes interview, and I was like, I would love to, but I'm on sabbatical in January. And, I was still able to do the interview, and it was great. We just did our interview a couple days ago, so that'll probably air sometime in March. But it didn't matter who it was. Like, we really couldn't do it. We had to turn down. It was a big engagement with Eric Thomas. It was like, can you speak? It was like, it's in January. I'd love to, but I cannot, because I have a sabbatical. So I just,
what? You told Eric, you told ET no?
Yeah, I mean,
Hey.
sabbaticals.
I love it. I love
a member of his
that you
team.
You did not sell your soul, if you will, is the term that people use. Like, you know what you want, you know what you need, and you go after that, and you don't sell your soul just for the money, the fame, the fortune, just because, this might never come around again. That God doesn't work that way.
And I wanted to. And thankfully, it was a event for a conference that a friend of mine runs, and he was one of the speakers. And I was just like, I would love to meet him. I'd love to speak. I'd love to be at this event. And I couldn't do it because of the timing. But I will say, one, I did work my way up here. I didn't do this my first year in business. My team was ready to go, but I took a sabbatical this year before I needed it. Last year, when I took a sabbatical, it was because I needed it. Like, I'd done a big event. I had a mental breakdown at the event. I was just so tired and exhausted. I didn't get enough sleep. And after that, I had to take a sabbatical. It was like, I went home one night and booked all the flights. It was like, we're going to be gone for 6 weeks. And my husband was like, where are we going? And I was like, Ghana, Bali, Thailand, wherever we want to go, but we will not be here. And for me, and I was talking to my pastor about this, shout out to Pastor Daniels at Change Church. And of course, shout out to my dad, Pastor Keith Williams at Cornerstone. My dad's I'm always going to be your pastor. I'm like, that's true, Daddy. Okay. But I told my pastor, I was like, I can't really relax unless I'm far away. Like, I need to be on a whole nother time zone. It needs to be day where I'm at, night where the world is, back home. And he's like, well, that's why you gotta come with it. Your business gonna have to thrive, because that costs. And I think that if you don't take a break, you can break.
If you
don't take a break, it will break you.
I love it.
Yeah. Like, people are not meant to take sustained pressure like that. And another thing that I've learned, for a while, I was trying to build my business like a man, and I'm a woman. Like, there are some things that I look like. All of my mentors, a lot of my big mentors were men. My dad is who I look up to. My mentors are men, and I love my mentors. I've had phenomenal mentors. The women mentors that I had, were great too. But the people that I was learning from, who were 10 times ahead of me, were traditionally men. And so I looked at how they built in that grind, 15-hour days. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And I had a revelation that was like, first off, ma'am, you are not physically built the same way. Everyone has different capacity limits. And while maybe they can't take months off for a sabbatical, maybe they don't need it, you do. You do. And so being okay with your perceived limitations, I think it's a superpower that I could take a month off, come back and crush it. I used to see it as a limitation, and it's inconvenient. And let me tell you something else, because this really got me. I was like, oh, I want to take this sabbatical, but it's so inconvenient. It's so inconvenient. And what the Holy Spirit brought to my remembrance is you will inconvenience yourself for business every day of the week. You will inconvenience yourself to be there for a friend every day of the week. You'll inconvenience yourself for all these other things. What's wrong with having a little inconvenience as it relates to your rest? Like, yeah, it's never going to be a convenient time, but if it's something that you need to do better, you got to do it. And I mean, it just transformed our whole life. Like, I feel physically lighter. My presence is lighter when people are around me. When I came back last year, my girlfriend was like, I don't know, something about you feels different. Like, you feel more at peace, more at ease. And that is a better way to build. And I need that energy because I'm married. I don't want to come home hard and tough and rough and all of that. Like, he ain't into that.
A sabbatical can look different ways. So I don't want anyone who's listening to believe that a sabbatical must look like the way that Ashley took hers. A sabbatical, especially when you do it at the end of the year, we call it sabbatical. A lot of people do other sabbaticals that can be AKA fasting. And then fasting can look differently. You may think that fasting from food is major, but for some, they may have a different vice or a different thing that they need to fast from. And I know, being a preacher's kid, especially that of Dr. Miles Monroe, fasting was major, not only at the beginning of the year, but throughout the year.
Yeah.
Because he understood how there were some things in your life that needed just more than prayer.
Yeah.
Some things, there are some demons, there are some enemies, there are just some challenges in life that only can be broken and dealt with through prayer and fasting. And that's your sabbatical from whatever this thing is that's kind of getting in the way of you being at rest, at peace, being able to enjoy the love and the strength that God has given you, that you can get from people. It also prevents you from being overwhelmed, from burnout, like you mentioned earlier, Ashley, from being depressed, from having nervous breakdowns. Like, you just have more clarity. You're just able to think more, and then you become more creative. And sabbaticals just can look however you want it to look like for you, because you may not be on Ashley's level, or my level, or you may be just at a point where I just need a week of,
or a day,
exactly, of no fast food.
Yeah, look out the window.
People take sabbaticals from social media.
Oh yeah. There's a great app I would recommend, Opal, OPAL.
I heard you mention it.
It allows you to block social media. I love that app because even while I was away, I would find myself like getting on Facebook. I would block that app for 23 hours a day. You can't unblock it. It's just great. And it tracks how much time you're on it and how much time you save. But yeah, to your point, you don't have to do multi-weeks off. Now, I do, but you don't have to. And it can look however it needs to look for you. The real goal is just to take a Sabbath once a week, right? Take a day where you are at rest, and you're really focused on your rest for at least once a week.
And even that can look different. Does it mean that you laying down in the bed, closing your eyes? No. It could mean...
There's a book I'd recommend, Sacred Rest by Dr. Sandra Dalton. She's one of our, she's an incredible former mastermind client of mine, but she also wrote a book, Sacred Rest, and it is phenomenal. Over 100,000 copies sold. And it breaks down the stages of rest, what rest is, how rest can be active. It was transformative for me. So I'd highly recommend that book.
Absolutely. And I like it. What's her name?
Dr. Sandra Dalton.
Sacred Rest.
And she's a medical doctor too. So it's like a really good...
Check it out.
Perspective. Yeah, but she's fabulous. So that would be a good book on that.
I love it. So there's two things I want to mention, because you said something to me backstage and I must bring it to the forefront for the people. You said someone shared with you, and I thought it was your quote because I was about to give you all the credits. You said, whatever limitations you fight for, you get to keep. Ashley, please talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think, things happen in life. Like, life is not going to be perfect. If we look at even all the stories in the Bible, it's all stories of imperfect situations being handled by imperfect people who are aiming to serve a perfect God, and some who aren't, right? And so I think that, like, our life is not going to be perfect. But I've had things happen to me in my life. I'm a sexual assault survivor. I am, I've just overcome a lot of personal things. I've had struggles with mental health, and I've had to like overcome that. I've had to be in therapy and have the right doctors, and struggling with like weight gain and weight loss and like all these different things. However, I do not live from my past. I live from my future. So I look back for data, but I am looking forward and excitement for what's happening and what's going to happen next. And I try to be positive and grateful. And for a lot of business owners who are like always trying to quit, always trying to shift everything, I hear this a lot. It's like, oh, I'm being shifted in this direction. I'm being shifted in this direction. It's like, first off, you got to get solid, get stable. If you don't do something for a long enough period of time, it's going to be difficult for you to iterate and make it better. But one of the things that we've adopted is like, you don't need to just have revenue goals. Before we made $1 million in a year, that was a revenue goal. Like, I want to make $1 million in a year. The goals that mattered more were your activity goals. These are the activities that I'm going to do every day to reach that revenue goal. I would celebrate if I reached my activity goals, which was why when there was 10 people in that conference room in 2019, I was happy because it was like, I don't care if I get the reward now or later. If I keep doing the right activities, it is guaranteed that it's going to work out for me. I just don't know when, but I definitely know it will. And so we focus a lot in our business, with my team, with myself, with my clients, on what are the specific, tangible, quantifiable activities that you need to do day to day to reach success. And I guarantee you, one of those activities is not complaining, feeling bad about yourself, and self-loathing. You're going to need to figure out if you got stuff that's keeping you self-sabotaging your business, self-sabotaging yourself, who's going to help you with that? If that's a mental health professional, if it's a medical doctor, if it's you going to your pastor, if it's you getting a life coach, whatever that looks like for you, that's where you're going to handle that. But you're going to need a plan for every area of your life that you want to grow. If it's personal, you need a plan. If it's spiritual, you need a plan. If it's relational, you need a plan. If it's financial, you need a plan. If it's business, you need a plan. And that plan has to include your activity goals. And then you need to look and say, on Monday, did I reach these activity goals? If yes, cool, let me celebrate. This is going to be a good month. If you don't do those things, don't expect it to work out.
And I want to reiterate that point, because a lot of people, they look at their life as a whole, and that's how my life goal is to do this and just do this. But it is so important that you look at all the different sectors of your life, like Ashley said, and make plans and goals and set dates, just make sure you look at all the aspects of your life, because your life may be this big pizza, if you will, but then there are these different slices that are going to taste different. They're going to be different sizes. You're going to be at a certain point. You may be on a scale of 1 to 10. You may love your business life or development where you are now at a 10, but physically you're at a 2. And if you don't, and then mentally maybe you're at a 3. But you're not going to deal with any one of them individually if you don't look at it individually, and if you keep looking at your life as a whole. So I love that you said, look at all the areas of your life and then make a plan for each area. Please assess where you are and then where you want to go, and then truly, truly make a plan. Yes. And if you follow Dr. Miles Monroe, you know that everything about success, everything about kingdom, everything about God was about preparation and planning. And especially when it comes to change and being prepared for, when change happens that we have no control over. Like, what do you have control over? And even your plans, you don't. The Bible says very clearly, many are the what? Plans in a man's heart. But it's always going to be God's purpose that prevails. But your plan, please have a plan. Like, please create a plan. I appreciate that. And I'm so glad you brought to the forefront, actually, that you don't live in the past. You look at it for data, but you look in the future. You live in the future. And why is that so important to you, to not live in the past? Because we know a lot of people hold on to their past. And I don't want to minimize anybody's past. I don't want to minimize anybody's mishappenings, misfortunes in their past, and just assume that it's a crutch and they're holding on to it. However, for you, what has worked is not living in your past. Why is that so important?
I don't live from my past, meaning I don't say, hey, I would love to make $10 million, but because all I've ever made is a couple $1 million in a year, I'll never be able to reach that. That's living from your past. That's using past data to determine what you will do in the future holistically. I live from my future. You get to determine the future that you live from. Like, one of the things that there's an actual body of work called the Science of Future Self. And in the Science of Future Self, before I make a decision, I ask myself, what would $1 Billion Ash do? Like, if money were no object, if fear were not real, if none of this, if I had 100% faith in God and never even knew what doubting him was, what decision would I make in this moment about this thing? What goals would I set? And then I set the goal from that future, right? That may not be my reality now, but I'm setting my goals from the future, from the most idealistic version of my future, instead of from the sorrows of my past. I think that one of the things that can happen is if we had a good past, that can be a prison. So it's like, well, when I was in high school, I was the man. I was doing this, I was doing that. And all their stories is about high school. Baby, it's 2025. You ain't been in high school in 50 years. We're going to need you to set a new goal. We're going to need you to talk from your future. It's nothing wrong with acknowledging the successes of the past. It's nothing wrong with acknowledging the pains of the past. But those pains should not then become a prison from which you make your future decisions.
Your pain should not become a prison from which you make your future decisions. And one of the things I talk about a lot in the podcast is pain being the fuel to your purpose, if you will. And I love that you talk about, especially when we talk about the why, we do what we do for the people. We do what we do for God. The why is so important. Oh, this has been so sweet. And we don't have no more time left. Where's it gone? I'm going to ask a question. What is the best advice that you have been given on your journey by a mentor, by a teacher, by a friend? You just happen to hear it on a podcast. And how did you apply it to your own life?
I would say no one can tell you no. They're just not the right person to give you the yes. And that came from my dad, and I've lived by that forever. So that came from Pastor Keith Williams, who's my dad. And he has a book out called From Foster to Favor, which shares his journey of growing his business and overcoming some of the challenges that he's had to overcome to reach success. And I've applied that to everything. One of the ways that we build our business at Speak Your Way to Cash is we pitch. Strangers became the foundation from which we built a multi-7-figure company. So that means I would be asking people who did not know me personally to do business with me, to work with me. And that is where you can really build a business. If you can only make money from people you know, that is not where you build a business. Like, that limits the amount of people or the amount of revenue you can make to your inner circle, which is why you've never seen me on the internet complaining about my friends and family not buying from me. I don't care. There's 7 billion people in the world. My friends and family support me. They may not support by buying. They may support by sending a text or sending a good word. But my marketing strategy is not to only sell to people in my phone. That's not the vision that I have for my company. And so that advice is critical because I pitched for paid speaking engagements, and that's how we got them. We pitched to be a recurring legal expert on TV in Chicago, and that's how we got it. We pitched for our first 5 and 6-figure clients, and that's how we got them. So that is important because you're going to hear no a lot. If you don't hear no enough, it's because you're not going for big enough opportunities. I can tell how fast someone's growing by how much they hear no. You never hear no, you ain't going for nothing. Everybody telling you yes, so then you have a safe business. That's cool, but it's not going to scale forever that way. Like, eventually you're going to have to put yourself out there into some deep waters that you may not know if you're going to be able to walk on. And that's where faith comes in. Are you really living a life that is reliant on Christ if you can literally control every single answer you're getting and it's always yes? Like, let him show up. Let him put his super on your natural and go for some big no's. And that is a lesson that my dad taught me. And it's like the best quote ever is like, okay, they're not the right person to give me the yes. Okay, cool. So let me go find somebody else. Okay, let me respond later. Let me wait until they become a different person. Can I put out some content that would have them become a different person? And now that person who's still them, but just a different version of them, can say yes. Maybe I need to talk to someone else on their team. Maybe I need to present differently. And that also transformed into a mantra that I have, which is they are not rejecting me. They're rejecting my presentation of the offer. So then it's not personal. So a lot of people are like stuck in, only 5 people. No one wanted to come to my webinar. First off, they don't know anything about you, and it ain't about it being your webinar. They don't like the title.
Well,
they don't like the graphic.
These things and then just going quickly. Let's go back to that mantra. My goodness, give my audience a minute.
Yeah,
you said they're not rejecting you.
They're rejecting your presentation of the offer.
Presentation of your offer, which if anything, is constructive criticism to you.
Yeah, which is great
Yes.
because now I can tweak. And this is
Make the
why
adjustments.
you can't be, if you can't deal with rejection, you got to figure out what the root of that is so that you can grow your business. Because if you personalize and internalize everything as an indictment of who you are as a person, you'll never grow. You'll never grow because it'll be
Hope you're
too
listening,
painful.
ladies and gentlemen. Please listen. Listen. Hope
You'll
you
never
are listening.
grow.
Okay, Ashley, give us your best advice from what you have learned from your lessons, from your journey.
Man, my
don't need
best
one.
advice is confidence is not confidence is based on competence. So get good first. Get good first. You don't lack confidence. You don't lack self-esteem. You lack data. You need to, because if I ask you your name, people would be like, they would just rattle off their name. Why? They're confident in what their name is. Their parents gave it to them. They believe their parents when they gave it to them. They've practiced writing it since kindergarten. They know what it is. What if you knew your craft like that? Would you still have imposter syndrome? Would you still be scared when people ask you? Would you still be scared to promote? Would you still worry about if people rejected you? If you told someone your name and they're like, that's not your name, you're not offended. You're not never going to say your name again. You're like, well, they're wrong because I know that's my name. That's how you need to know your offers. That's how you're going to sell people. Sales is the transference of belief. Belief is a knowing. If you don't know it, it's hard for you to sell it.
Ashley says confidence is competence. Competence. So get good first. Ladies and gentlemen, she came for our spiritual life today. She came for our personal life today. She came for our financial life today. She came for your business life today. If you pull whichever one you need, if you need all, take it all. If you need just the financial part, take your piece. Ashley, thank you so much for being open, for being transparent, for sharing what you have learned, for sharing a little bit of Dad. We've heard Dad in there. So it's so nice to meet him through you. But she was speaking to you and she was speaking to me. When we get off this, anyway, please tell the people how they can how they can connect with you. What do you have going on that they can make sure they grab into, that they are there in the room? Tell us it all.
Yes. So, if you all want to connect with me, then you can definitely follow me on Instagram at The Ashley Nicole Show. And if you DM me the word summit, SUMMIT, I will send you a link to our next free event, which is talking about how you can sell your services to corporations, whether you're a large company or a small company or a solopreneur just starting out. So just DM me the word summit on Instagram. You can find me there. You can also find me in the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group, which is another free resource. And of course, in October, we have Speak Your Way to Cash Live coming up. So it's our 3-day live event where we literally teach experts how to land 5- and 6-figure corporate speaking contracts in a weekend. We've been doing it since 2019 and 10 people. It is our flagship event. And this year's theme is, it is the Olympics. So we have an Olympics theme. So it's called Olympic Level Cash Leads, which is the name of our community. And so we're really going to be talking about how you can play at the highest level from where you're at.
I am a foodie. And I love food. It probably shows when I look in the mirror, but I don't care. So what is your favorite food and your favorite restaurant?
Oh, I do not even have a favorite restaurant. My favorite food is Thai food. Like if I had to give it, I love Thai food. I love Thai food from Bangkok, Thailand specifically. I can eat so much of that food. Now I'm like vegetarian a little bit, but I don't know for how long it'll last. But I love Thai food. I love shrimp pad Thai spicy. I love, love, love Thai food. And I also love, what is it called? It's called like a papaya salad. It's a spicy papaya salad with like crispy shrimp on it. It's so good. So I also love food. I ate too much food on sabbatical, which is why now I'm just doing vegetarian for 30 days so I can.
And I love Thai food just in America. So I know in Thailand it's probably the best. The best.
So awesome. Good.
I don't care which avenue you take, make sure you get connected somehow to this beautiful woman who is doing amazing things in the world, all because she is following her why. Ashley, thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening. This has been another great episode here at the Purpose Finder podcast. I'm your host, Charissa Monroe. Until next time, see you soon.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. I hope today's conversation lit a fire within you, because purpose isn't just something you chase. It is something you live every single day. If this episode resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people on their journey to purpose. Let's continue the journey together. Join the Purpose Finder community on Facebook for exclusive insights, tools, and a tribe of purpose-driven people just like you. And remember, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. Your purpose isn't far off. It's already within you. It's time for you to uncover it and live it boldly. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep walking in your purpose.